Welcome to McDonald's. What can I get you today?
Hi, she'll have the quarter pounder with cheese, extra mustard.
No pickles.
And I'll have a 10-piece chicken McNuggets.
And 2 sides of ranch, please.
We've done this before meal. Get it at McDonald's when you get 2 of your faves for just $5.
Limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Single item at regular price.
Empire.
The divisional round is going to look like rivalry week. What's up, everybody? It's Mike Jones. Thanks for coming back for another episode of the Football Jones podcast. Yes, the way it is shaped up, it is going to be a fantastic divisional round of the NFL playoffs. You got Tom Brady going against Drew Brees, 2 future Hall of Famers. You've got Lamar Jackson going against Josh Allen, both in the same draft class, 2 of the most electrifying young quarterbacks in the league. You've got Baker Mayfield going against Patrick Mahomes. You know, you got, Progressive versus State Farm. Who's got the most commercials? They are probably just salivating. And, you know, one of the other really important matchups of familiar faces is the Rams versus the Packers. Sean McVay versus his best buddy, Matt LaFleur. If you don't remember, those 2 guys really spent a very formative portion of their coaching careers in Washington together on Mike Shanahan's staff. And that is where really was the springboard for them in their coaching careers. And because of that, I thought it was a good idea to have Mike Shanahan on for this week's episode. He's going to tell us about how he picked Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur to be assistants on his coaching staff when he took over Washington's team in 2010. Tell us about their personalities, what makes them tick, what makes them good coaches, what are their philosophies, and why they are in the positions they are in today as 2 of the hottest young coaches, and what we can expect from their teams. A really insightful conversation here with Mike Shanahan, 2-time Super Bowl winning head coach. So let's get to it right now. I'd like to ask you, what was this year like for you watching? I know you probably went to a few San Francisco games, but just from what you observed, how strange was this year?
Well, I only went to one, and that was the last one. That's because it was out in Arizona. But, you know, I didn't want to travel. And I didn't want to put Kyle or his family in a position that'd be, you might have it yourself. So it was quite unusual. I could see everything on Zoom, the games and the meetings and those type of things. So from that standpoint, it kept me busy.
Yeah. For you, when you see the way everything shook out, was there a surprise team or somebody that surprised you as we look, as the playoffs kicked off, teams that weren't there or that were there?
Well, I think anytime you have new teams making the playoffs, it's always interesting to see what teams do make it, and you're not really sure why. Sometimes it's because of injury. Other times, a guy comes and really stands out, especially a young football player. But, this year has been quite unusual just because you didn't get a chance to watch it like you normally do. And it was just, with this COVID and all, half the time we weren't really sure on who's going to be able to play. Yeah. I can't imagine, you're having a game plan and then on a Friday or a Saturday finding out, your wide receivers can't go or your quarterbacks can't go, and the scramble that you have to go through to deal with that. No, and there was no excuses too, because everybody was under the same situation. It didn't matter if you're quarterbacks or your offensive line. It didn't matter if you had everybody hurt at one position. You're going to play either way, so you had to get ready for it. Yeah, exactly. Well, I wanted to talk to you about 2 of your disciples, Matt LaFleur and Sean McVay, getting ready to face off. What did you observe from their teams this year? Year 2 for Matt. They get the best record in the NFC. Year, 3 or 4 for Sean? They were right there in the thick of things for their division until the end there. But what impressed you about their teams? Well, just to talk about the Packers first, I just thought they had a heck of a year. You compare it to 2019, and they were 13-3, just like they are this year. But when you take a look at their offense, the job that Rodgers did was kind of unbelievable. Not just Rodgers, but their offense in general. You take a look, they were number 1 in points, turnovers.
passing TDs, fewest interceptions. You could go on and on. I think they had 8 categories where they number one in different areas on offense. That doesn't happen very often.
What do you attribute that to?
Well, I looked back in 2019 and tried to make a comparison, and they were pretty good in 2019, but they averaged like being in the top 8 in almost all offensive categories. At least they average out in that area. This year, they were like in the top 3. So I think Aaron feeling a lot more comfortable with the terminology, the system, a better running game, at least more runs. And, you give Aaron Rodgers a good running game, and with his ability to make plays in a passing game, most teams are going to be in for a long day.
Yeah, that's something that he didn't really consistently have, was a good rushing attack. But your offense that you designed, that Matt runs, you guys believe in a strong run game. Can you just talk about how much more that opens up for your quarterback when you have that run game? And a lot of the times, like, your run plays look like pass plays. You guys have the boot action and all that. Just how much does that help you?
Well, I think that's the key for any good offense. If you have a good play action game, you can come up with some big plays on first and second down. Third down's a lot different down than first and second. But, if you do have a 50-50 or close to it on first and second down of a run-pass ratio, you've got some opportunities when people are taking away to run to have some big play action plays. And I think that's any quarterback's best friend, is be able to come up with a big play. And, they're hard to get in the National Football League, and that's probably one of the few ways you can get it.
What did you notice about Matt just in his growth from year 1 to year 2 as a head coach?
To be honest with you, Matt's always been a very sharp guy, a very steady guy. He would never get riled up too much, one way or the other. If he was dealing with the quarterbacks or, whatever his job was on game day as an assistant coach or as a coordinator, I was just thoroughly impressed when he went to the Rams the first year. He was the offensive coordinator. People remember how great the stats were in 2017. Even though they lost to Atlanta, they were pretty consistent the whole year. And for Matt to come in as the offensive coordinator for Sean at that time and put in the offense, because the head coach, even though he wants to do it, he's got to wear a lot of different hats. And I think he really leaned on Matt with the playbook and some of the things that he knew Matt could do to help him along.
Gotcha. What do you remember about the first time you met Matt, and what stood out to you?
Well, to be honest with you, he's very nice guy, very sharp guy, very low key. He did his job. He did it extremely well. But the one thing I did know about him, that he was going to do his job and do it well, because he had the quarterbacks and he had spent a couple of years with Kyle. And Kyle had a lot of confidence in him. He says, hey, he's not going to yell. He's not a yeller, but he's very sharp. He's he's an attention to detail type guy. It doesn't matter if it's offense or defense. He takes a lot of pride in knowing what everybody does. And he thought he'd be a perfect fit, whoever our quarterback was.
Yeah, and you guys had a lot of different quarterbacks. You had veteran guys, you had journeymen, you had rookies. What does it take to be a good coach of all those different kinds of guys as Matt was?
Well, I felt really good about Matt because he took a lot of pride, not only understanding the offense and all the different type of terminologies that go with it. Because when you're dealing with a new quarterback, I don't care if it's Aaron Rodgers or a Rex Grossman or a Robert Griffin, and you're putting an offense in, it's a different process for guys, because it's like learning a different language. So you have to be very patient with people. You have to have a lot of attention to detail, because they're thinking something that you might not be thinking, because it takes so much time before it becomes automatic. But Matt had the patience to spend the time that the quarterbacks needed, and just did a tremendous job.
And then, as you've seen him progress as from quarterbacks coach to coordinator, now the head coach here, have you had any talks with him just on the journey and kind of, how it's unfolded for him and what he's recalled, what stood out for him along the way?
To be honest with you, I'll text him probably like every couple of weeks and just congratulate him on a game plan, if it's offensively or defensively, and talk about some of the points that I thought really stood out. But coaches are so busy during the season, you don't get a chance to talk to him very much. But I'll just drop him a line every once in a while, just tell him how proud I am of him, and what a great job he's doing.
Gotcha. And what about Sean? What do you recall from when you first met him? In Washington, he started out as an offensive assistant. Then he got the tight ends. You bumped him up to the tight ends job. But what were your early memories of him as well?
Well, when we first came in, he came in as an offensive assistant, and I had to talk to him for about 2 minutes before I knew I was going to hire him. And so I canceled everything else that we had planned. And he was just, he was a go-getter. I mean, he enjoyed everything. He enjoyed the game. And I knew his dad, John McVay, or I should say his grandfather, John McVay, with the 49ers.
Okay.
And I just loved him. He was just so good at what he did. It was a great learning experience for me. And I just knew if I could get Sean, would be an extension of his grandfather, that I had a chance to get somebody special. And it didn't take me long when he did become our full-time tight end coach to see how much pride he took in not only knowing what the tight ends did, but the offensive line, the receivers. And one of the reasons why he's so good today, because he understands the complete game, as well as defense. That defense right now is doing an incredible job. It's almost number one in all different areas.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Sean has a lot to do with that as well.
Yeah, and can you also talk about, he was a tight ends coach, but you give your coaches, your assistants, a lot of different responsibilities into just in addition to just working with the tight ends. What kind of ways did he help you in addition to that?
Well, if you know how to coach the tight ends in the running game, the tight end has to know all the positions as wide receivers as well. So if you're coaching the tight ends, you might as well be coaching the wide receivers, because that tight end plays every position on offense. So, he can play fullback and tailback as well. So, once you do have the tight ends, you got a complete understanding of the whole game plan if you're going to be a good one. Not everybody does, but a guy like Sean wanted to know every attention to detail and took a lot of pride in knowing the defenses as well.
Gotcha. When he became a head coach, did you talk to him ahead of time, or did you guys have any talks? Any advice did you give him as he embarked on the journey?
We did a couple camps together up in California, and I had a chance to spend a day or two with him here and there and just kind of talk about how his year's going, talk about the mini camps, and talking about all the hats you do wear and all the decisions you do have to make. But I could tell how excited he was about it and how much he enjoyed talking to different coaches and picking their brains even when he was hiring them, just because it was a great learning experience for him. And so he's always on top of it. He's got a fantastic memory, and he'll be one of the best for a long time.
Now they're going head to head here, and they obviously know each other's tendencies pretty well. What do you expect to play out, and how do you handle that when you're going against a coach that knows you so well, but you also have your bread and butter? How would you approach that if you were one of the two of them trying to get this game plan together?
Well, first of all, they change their game plans up, each week. They change up personnel groupings, formations, and I think that's one of the reasons why they both are very successful. They do a good job of changing things up for people in their division as well. And so if it's coming maybe 3 tight ends, maybe 4 tight ends or 4 wide receivers, you never know. And a lot has to do with injuries, how you change up per week. But these guys got a great feel on how to keep somebody off balance. I think it's one of the reasons why both of them have been so successful.
Gotcha. Now, for playoff football, how much different does it become from regular season, that intensity level, to this time of year?
Well, I think if you really have the right squad, that you go you just know you have the opportunity now. Everything you've done throughout the whole year is giving you the opportunity to get it done this weekend. So every minute of every day, your attention to detail in the game plan has got to be in the moment. You're not thinking about when you play the game. You're thinking about the preparations for the game, because there's so many details that go into it on, all 3 phases of the game. And you're really telling your players that, hey, you can't take any time off. I don't care if it's a 3rd down package, it's a 1st down package. Everything we're doing could be the difference in winning and losing. And this is what we play the game for, to win a Super Bowl championship. And now we got our opportunity. We're in the hunt. And once you get in the hunt, you got a chance.
Now, in Green Bay, obviously they have Aaron Rodgers, who's great, and they have Devontae Adams, who's, a star. I feel like Matt's done a really good job of working with the talent that he has, because outside of those two, he doesn't really have, I mean, Aaron Jones is good, but he doesn't have a lot of elite talent. What does it take to get as much out of them as he has?
Well, just watch him this year. The running game is much improved. And when you put a running game together, you've got to study it in the offseason, and you can see that he's on top of his game, where he's always studying what other people are doing. So he's going to try to implement some things to help themselves. And I think they've done that. The running game is much better, more attempts this year than before. And you can tell that Aaron has less attempts throwing the ball, because, they're running the ball a lot more, and which has made him even more effective. And anytime you have 48 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, that doesn't happen to most human beings anyhow. But they've done such a good job. And I think they're averaging almost 5 yards a carry. I think it's like 4.8. So when you can get your offensive team having that type of production in the running game, you've got a phase that the defense has to stop. And if they try to stop that, and you got to go against Aaron Rodgers, he's going to get his big plays.
Now, Sean, obviously, he had the injury to Jared Goff, and they had, his backup in there. Then he got hurt. Then Goff was back in there. That was a huge win to get against Seattle. What stood out about just the keys to success, despite the little bit of instability at that quarterback position?
Well, that's what I think the key to Sean is. Sean knew that he's playing with a quarterback with a broken thumb, and he's going to take the pressure off his quarterback and put it on the running game. And that's what he's going to try to do. You never know how it's going to work out. But when he went into that game, that defense they have has been playing so good. And Sean's aware of that. They're almost number one in, half to 3/4 of the areas. I've never seen one defense go from one extreme to another in all different areas. And Sean's smart enough to use that defense and put the pressure on his offense where he sees fit. But he's surely not going to lose a game. And that's what I thought he did against the Seahawks. That defense took their offense away. And all Sean had to do is make sure that, they didn't give any cheap touchdowns away. He played that way through most of the game.
One of the guys also on that staff is Aubrey Pleasant. You had him for a little while there in Washington as well. Do you remember much about his time with you there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just know he's going to, he's a stud. He's a guy that I've always kind of watched from afar. Just a young coach that was very knowledgeable, and you can see why he's having success.
Yeah, I mean, his defensive backs are just, obviously Jalen Ramsey gets a lot of credit, but all those guys are making plays. It's good to see, all those former Washington guys, that you had there do well. For this weekend, what are you anticipating? Do you have a prediction of how it'll shake out between the Rams and the Packers?
No, it's going to be an interesting fight, because when you take a look at both defenses, Green Bay's defense has gotten a lot better from last year. And so that's an improvement. The Rams defense it's almost unbelievable the difference in 1 year. The defensive coordinator there has been, he's done a fantastic job, and he really knows what he's doing, both in the run defense and the pass defense. Brandon Staley, I don't know him, but I tell you one thing, I've got a lot of respect for him, because I don't think I've seen one defense make as many strides as that defense has made in 1 year.
Yeah, he's a young guy. He was with Vic Fangio, and I remember a lot of people kind of raised some eyebrows when Sean hired him, but it looks like quite the smart move now.
Well, when you take a look at Fangio, every place that he's been, I don't care if it was Baltimore, I don't care if it was San Francisco, care if it was Cleveland, no matter where it was, he's always been good in run defense, pass defense, and he's always had a lot of success. So to get an assistant coach that's been around him, it's a great learning experience, and he's really taken advantage of it, because he's really good.
So this week, these two guys there going to get it. What do you think? Does Aaron Rodgers elevate them, or do you feel like that defense that the Rams have might be the equalizer?
Well, I think they've got a chance because of that defense. Because if you don't have a great defense and you're playing Aaron Rodgers with a good running game, you've got to, you're going to give up some plays. And I don't care how good your defense, you're still going to make a few here and there. The key is, will the Rams be able to make the plays against that defense? And I know Sean, he's going to do his best to come up with some plays, just like he did, last week, or I should say a couple days ago, or is it a day ago now? Heck, I'm kind of losing track. But
yeah, me too.
Anyway, with his play action, he's going to get somebody wide open in there, and He's just hoping there's enough big plays in there where he can keep up with the Packers.
Gotcha. One other guy that I wanted to ask you about, he worked under you, was Raheem Morris. You brought him there as your defensive backs coach, and he was the interim coach in Atlanta and kind of on the market as a head coach. What did you see out of him this year? And, what are his strengths as a coach?
Oh, I think the role of Raheem, he's a guy that understands both sides of the ball, offensive, defense, and one of the best motivators I've ever seen of an assistant coach. He gets his guys to play hard. They believe in him. He handles himself the right way. Players know that there's no BS about it. They expect him to perform at a certain level, and they do because they like him, they respect him, and they play hard for him. He'd be a great head football coach.
Yeah, well, hopefully we see that come to pass this offseason here. Last one, do you have a Super Bowl prediction yet?
No, not yet. I got to save that. I got one more week.
Yeah, I tell you, there's a lot of good teams, and I keep going back and forth on my picks. I feel good about the Chiefs, but the NFC is just so wide open for grabs. I can't make up my mind on who's going out of that conference.
Hey, after the last couple of days, I was wrong on everybody, so I'm the wrong guy to ask.
All right, Mike. Well, I really appreciate your time. Always good talking to you. Always full of insight. And I hope you have a good one.
You too, Mike. Take care, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks so much to Mike Shanahan. Really enjoy talking to him. I hit him up throughout the year. When I'm watching a game, after a game, or when I'm going back over things, I'll just ask him, hey, were you watching this? What did you see? Because I learned so much from him. He was the first pro football coach that I covered full time during that time in Washington after coming over from covering the NBA for a number of years. So I learned a lot from him then, and I still lean on him for insight. So great to have him on the podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed that. And I hope you guys enjoy the playoffs this week. Do me a favor, take this episode, share it with your friends. Make sure you are subscribed, download, and I will talk to you guys again next time.